I have just printed out something very special, and that is the section of my book that I am going to revise before going on submission. So I guess you could consider this my submission editing vlog. I've never actually done writing vlog before. I've only ever done like reading vlogs, which I feel like is a little bit easier because you can actually talk about things that are happening and plot and characters, assuming that someone has read the book or plans on it or is semi-interested in it. But with your own book, obviously I can't give too many spoilers, and I'm really only gonna have positive things to say about it, hopefully. Yeah, so I have no idea if this is going to actually end up being interesting at all, but I'm trying to shift some of my content to be more writing focused and less reading focused, so this is just kind of attempt number one at that, and we'll see how it goes. So this is about 110 pages of my manuscript, and it encompasses scenes from kind of all over the book. The directive that I was given was to add more banter and tension between my two main romantic interests. I think part of the reason why there wasn't that much banter, I mean there was a little bit, but it kind of faded as the book progressed, and part of that is because my main character is just not really a banter gal. She's very like logical and intelligent and has other things going on. She's not really like focused on having fun that much, and so I had to try to figure out a way to add that banter and tension while still making it seem like it's being written from her perspective and not making her say things that she wouldn't actually say. So that was a little bit of a challenge at first, and that's why I printed it out, because I much prefer handwriting edits. Like when I'm doing line edits, I kind of need to handwrite them. If I'm looking at it on the computer, my eyes just kind of glaze over, and then I will transfer it back to the computer into track changes so that when I send it to my agent, she only sees the parts that have changed and not like everything else. Alright, same day. I have been working on this for about an hour, and I'm making good progress. It doesn't actually take that long because I kind of read sentences and I either know whether they should be changed or not. It's pretty obvious when I see a couple sentences of dialogue that could be easily made more banter-filled, and I figured I would give an example because I know sometimes it's hard to know exactly what that actually looks like or what that means. You know, you hear banter all the time, you hear banter, 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 and I'm definitely someone who thinks that banter is overdone in a lot of books, especially now. I just feel like not everything needs to be turned into a banter session. Like, I don't banter like that with people in my real life, obviously sometimes, but the majority of my conversations are just normal conversations. And so it's a balancing act, but here is an example of a place where the dialogue was very stale originally, and I will put the original on the screen as I'm reading it and then what I ended up doing. So the original was, "You're back," Sable finally said. She didn't try to reach for Marula again. "You don't sound surprised." Sable's mouth curved, dimples flaring. "Nor do you." So that was the original exchange, and it's cute, it's fine, there's nothing wrong with it, but this, I immediately read it and thought, okay, this is a place where I could make this a little bit more tense, and so here's the version that we ended up with. "You're back," Sable finally said. She didn't try to reach for Marula again. "Try not to sound too excited, it's unbecoming of a Vatane." Sable's mouth curved, dimples flaring. "What emotion would you prefer? Surprise? Why should I bother when it's already written all over your face?" So it just adds a little bit more back and forth, a little bit more character intrigue, and a tiny bit of humor. I mean, it's not like funny, but both of their responses kind of say the same thing as the original. "You're back, you don't sound surprised, nor do you." It's just a little bit more like bouncy, if that makes sense. So that's kind of an example of what I'm doing, basically just rewriting little pieces of dialogue exchange to be a little bit less boring and more exciting. And I'm moving through, and there are some scenes where I feel like I hardly have to do anything because they're already pretty good, and then there are some scenes where as I'm reading them, like, okay, yeah, like it's clear that I edited, or I spent most of my editing time on like plot and character and stuff like that. And in my line edits, there are probably some places where I did not revise the dialogue as well as I should have, and so obviously now I have the opportunity to do that. And one of the things that is really stressing me out more than usual is just like knowing that this, obviously sell the book, I'll revise it again, but now it's like a step closer to being the final version that people read, and that's a lot of pressure, because before it was like, okay, this is gonna change so many times that I'm not like attached to anything, but now there's so much more pressure with writing it exactly the way that I want it to be in the end, because it could be pretty close to the end, and that is terrifying, but it is the beginning of September, and I think that this will really only take me a couple days, but I will finish it, and then I will let it sit for like a couple weeks before I go back and look at it again. A little update on my editing for submission, which sounds crazy. I think I'm just kind of mentally stuck in this state of panic because for some reason editing the book to go on submission and send to my agent as opposed to editing the book to query feels very, very different, and there's a lot more pressure because I am like mostly done, but then I'm just overthinking everything. I'm like, what if I didn't do enough? But I also decided it was better to err on the side of doing less, or doing an appropriate amount of what I felt the story needed in comparison to the edit suggestions that I was given, rather than completely change the vibe and the tone of every scene, because I like the tone of some of the quieter, softer scenes, and I didn't want to mess with everything. I think it's possible, obviously, to have too much banter and tension, and so I tried to balance out what I did, and I think I'm really happy with the things that I did change. I can see how it made those scenes better now that I've finished, but like I said, I was trying not to go too crazy, because obviously like I could have just added banter to literally every single dialogue tag, but then that is ridiculous, so it's very difficult to know exactly how much to do because I have no frame of reference. This is the first edit that I've done for my agent. So yeah, that is the current status. I am going to send it to her at the end of the week. It's Monday now, and I think she's probably still on vacation, so she probably won't look at it yet, but then we will actually meet in person in London, which is kind of crazy, so I think I will probably wait to actually edit and publish this video until that happens so I can give you a final update on how all of the editing for submission went, and yeah, that's exciting. Excuse the fact that the camera is atrociously out of alignment, and also that the back of my monitor is absolutely covered in dust. Both of those things are things that I just simply do not have the energy to fix right now. I went on a hour-and-a-half long treadmill run this afternoon, so we're a little bit tired, hence the no dusting, and I have something to do, and that has been on my calendar, and that is to finish up the final edits to this revisions that I'm making to my manuscript. Like a week ago, well actually, okay, no, going back, like 3 weeks ago when I gave my update, my last update, where I said, I'm gonna let this sit for a little while. Well, I didn't do that. I ended up going back like a week later and basically adding a little bit more because I was stressed out that it was not enough, and so I added a little bit more. But it's still weird because when you look at the document, there's like full pages where there's just no revisions, because I either felt like it didn't need a revision because it already had lots of banter and tension, or it was a scene that I didn't want there to be any banter and tension because it was supposed to be kind of like melancholic. So, but then there's also scenes where there's a lot of revision, and I'm just very stressed out and anxious because it's the first revision that I've done for my agent. And so, you know, that little bit of academic people-pleasing tendencies that were available for most of my life, and especially in college, you know, you just can never get away from the academic validation, and I feel like sending things to my agent is kind of a similar level of academic validation. So we're just gonna do our best, and I'm going to do a final read through tonight because I said I was gonna send it tonight to myself, not to her. She said I can send it at the end of the month after our meeting, which is a week from today, but I also kind of want to send it before the meeting because I'm done and I'm not going to do anything else to it. Then if she has time, she can look at it before the meeting, and if she doesn't have time, it doesn't really matter. I don't feel like we would talk about anything at the meeting that would specifically inspire me to make further changes because I feel like I've already done a good job. Well, I think that, but now I'm going to read through it and see if I actually think that we've done a good job. I say we, like me. I am back from London. I've been back for like 2 days and it's been a whirlwind, mostly because I got sick the last few days that I was there. So if I'm very low energy in this clip, that is why. But I wanted to talk about how my meeting with my agent went. It was so fun. It was really awesome to get to meet her in person. We mostly just talked about like books and movies and TV shows and stuff, and a little bit about our plan for submission, which is coming up very soon. We discussed new titles, so hopefully soon I will have an actual official new title for the book, at least until editors get their hands on it, and then maybe it'll change again. But until then, it will be nice to actually have a way to talk about it, because right now it's just unmoored, and I don't like it being unmoored. It makes it very difficult to like talk about the book on social media because it kind of doesn't exist without a title. And yeah, so she's hard at work on the pitch letter and all of that good stuff. I finished up my edits. I sent them to her. She hasn't looked at them yet because she was on leave, and then she had just gotten back and we basically met, and it's only been a few days. So I have no updates yet on whether I did a good job on all of those edits that I did, but I will certainly come back with that in the next week or so. Otherwise, I may just publish this video because I've been sitting on it for a while, and then maybe in a future writing vlog I will talk about the feedback that I got on my edits. But that was it. My trip was really good, and it was really cool to see all of this writing stuff move forward, so we shall see. Hoping that this is now my final update of the video. So I did hear back from my agent and she did love the changes. However, we are going to make more changes because since she's a UK agent, they sometimes work with their like agency counterpart in the US to do US submissions, and so the person in the US read the book and really liked it and would want to help out with submission, but she has some editorial feedback that she would like to see implemented first. And so I was definitely given the option of whether I wanted to do this or not, but I think it would be kind of stupid not to give the book the best chance possible on submission, so it will delay our submission timeline a little bit, but I am going to take a look at that edit letter, and so I will probably end up doing a second vlog for that round of edits, and we still have a title. But my first edits were well received, and so now I just have to take another look, which will feel kind of painful because thinking about revising like structural parts of the book after spending like the last year and a half doing that is a little bit nauseating, but I know that it will be worth it, and I am not completely against doing it. I think it'll be a little bit fun, so we shall see. And that will end this video for now. I hope that this was somewhat enjoyable. I just think it's nice to get a little bit of an inside look into what the process is like, because I had no idea, obviously, before I started doing this, and so I think it's nice to document it a little bit, and other people in the same situation can see what it's like, or people who haven't gone through it yet can see what it's like. So let me know what you think. Thanks. Bye.